Okay, folks, this short video is about complete the square procedure from beginning to end. And you will use this in the lesson on quadratics. So I hope it helps you. Okay, so I'm calling this the perfect square trinomial lesson. And 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 so here's a binomial, and I'm squaring a binomial. If I square the binomial, I could use FOIL. Now let's think about this. The first would be x squared, okay? Then I would have the outer, which is 2x, and the inner, which is 2x. So plus 2x and plus 2x, and then the last, which is 4, and that's going to be x squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, so on the left side, this is a binomial squared, and on the right side, I have multiplied it out, and this is called a perfect square trinomial, PST. Okay, so keep that in mind. Just try to remember that example. Now, I could have done this with the little shortcut method. Remember that shortcut method? Square this, multiply them together and double, and then square that. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to do this problem. So I want to multiply that binomial squared out. My first term is going to be x squared. My second term, now multiply these together. That's a negative 3x, and you're going to double that, minus 6x. Right, we're doubling it because I just showed you over here that we had to do that, and then plus 9. So let me erase this, and so we're going to make a little chart here, and I'll call this a binomial squared, and then this is the perfect square trinomial. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's do this. What if I gave you something like this? X squared minus 10x plus 25. Could you go back this way? Well, you say to yourself, I could put an x here. I get that. And you're looking at this 25, and you say, well, I could put a 5 there. Put a 5 there, and I'll copy the sign right here. Now, would that work? Well, the x squared works, the 5 squared works. Now, how did I get that 10x? Well, I multiplied these two together and doubled. That's negative 5x doubled is negative 10x. So please keep that in mind. Now watch this. X squared, oh, I don't know, let's just say minus 8x plus 16. Is this a perfect square trinomial? Well, hey, I got an idea. You could take half the middle coefficient, half of 8 is 4, square it. Will I get 16? Yes. So let's see, could I go backwards again? X, 4, because of the 16, and minus. Is this binomial squared equivalent to that? And of course the answer is yes, it is. So the thing to keep in mind here is that if you take half that middle coefficient, 3, and square it, you get 9. If you take half that middle coefficient, even if it's negative, you square that, you're still going to get that value right there. Okay? And half of that negative 8 is negative 4, and if I square that, I do get 16. So this is how a perfect square trinomial situation works. Now, one last problem. I want to make a perfect square trinomial, a binomial squared here. So in order to do that, I have to make a perfect square trinomial. What number could I put here? Well, you say, I'll just use, what I just explained. I'll take half the middle coefficient, which is half of 12 is 6. I'll square it and get 36. Notice they're all plus over here on that last term. Can you go back? Sure. X plus 6 squared. Again, see how I get that 12? I multiply double. 12. So that's the gist of a perfect square trinomial. You need to use this idea in order to solve a problem like this where you're trying to figure out how to solve the quadratic equation. And of course you could use a quadratic formula, but you can also use complete the square. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little, well, I call this a song, okay? I know it's, don't be uncomfortable, okay? I won't be singing. Well, right now I won't be singing. But anyway, here's the song to complete the square. Take the constant to the right and leave a hole behind it. Half the middle coefficient, square it, and then add it. Factor writing as a square. Now take the square root of it. Get the x all by itself and simplify the answer. Now you could pause that if you want to, or rewind that and copy that down if you want to. Let's do that on this problem. Alright, so here you go. Take the constant to the right. So let me get my red marker. What happened to my red marker? Okay, so take the constant to the right and leave a hole behind it. Half the middle coefficient. Well, what is the middle coefficient? The middle coefficient is -4. What's half of -4? -2. Square it and then add it. Well, what's -2 squared? That's 4. I'm going to add 4. I'll just do this, okay? Add 4. Now on the left side, I'm going to have a perfect square trinomial. So factor writing as a square. We're going to factor writing the perfect square trinomial, which is x. I've got a 2 here, and what sign goes there? Minus. Okay, that's a binomial squared, equals, now let's clean this up here, that looks like 14, okay? Now, the next thing to do is to solve this is to take the square root of it. I'll take the square root of both sides. Okay, now remember when you do that, you'll have something like x minus 2, and then we're going to have equal to plus or minus radical 14. Okay, now remember radical 14 doesn't simplify, so that's simplified right now. But we got to get the x by itself, and I'm going to do that by adding 2 to both sides. 2 plus or minus square root of 14. Now this actually is my final answer. Remember there's 2 values, 2 plus radical 14 and 2 minus radical 14, and you could figure that out on your calculator. So there's an example of basic complete the square. Okay, we're going to do this problem, but before we do this problem, you may be wondering, can I sing the song? Okay, and it's to the tune of Yankee Doodle, and I'm sorry if you think less of me after I sing the song, but I have to do it because some people really need this. And here we go. You know Yankee Doodle went to town, so here we go. Take the constant to the right and leave a hole behind it. Half the middle coefficient, square it and then add it. Factor writing as a square, now take the square root of it. Get the x all by itself and simplify the answer. Yay, way to go. Alright, so let's make music out of this problem. Take the constant to the right. Okay, well we'll do this. Take the constant to the right and leave a hole behind it. Half the middle coefficient. Well, we're kind of stuck now. See, we've got this -2 in the front. So for this problem, you're going to have to pull out the -2. I'm going to factor that out, and that's x squared, what? Minus 4x? Correct? Okay, equals -8. Now I could use complete the square procedure. So I take half of the -4, which is -2. Half of the -4 is -2. I square that and I get 4. I got to add that here. But wait a minute, I have to add something to the other side too. Now, notice what I'm adding to the other side. I'm not adding 4, I'm really adding 4 times a negative 2. So 4 times a negative 2 is negative 8. I'm adding negative 8. Okay? Now, can we factor this? Yes, you could factor this. X minus 2 squared, and then that's going to equal to negative 16. All right? Factor writing as a squared. Now take the square root of it. Let's get rid of the negative 2 by dividing both sides by negative 2. Okay, so x minus 2 squared is equal to, let's take that, divide by negative 2, that's 8. Alright, now we could take the square root of both sides. Okay, I'm running out of room over here, so I'm just going to kind of write it over here. That's x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus radical 8. But wait a minute, radical 8 is really 2 radical 2. So that's x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus 2 radical 2. Remember to move that 2, so x is equal to 2 plus or minus 2 radical 2. And if that was a multiple choice question, I would be looking at that answer right there. Alright, so keep all of this in mind. The completing the square song is important. Now you're going to use this song, hold on here. Okay, you're going to use this song when you're trying to convert quadratic functions from vertex to standard and back again if you need to. So I hope this helps. Appreciate it.